KSP 101, this is episode 51, picking back up where we left off. The last abruptly cut off due to a hiccup in my connection. Sorry about that, but we have landed here at the Easter egg on Dres. I showed that in the last episode, so to avoid having to mark another episode as an Easter egg, I'm going to try to not look at it again. If you are interested in seeing the Easter egg or how to land at it, check out episode 50, but I digress. Let's continue where we left off. We have landed on Dres, so let's start by grabbing the vessel science, the crew report, and the external science parts and their science. Got the crew report. Now let's grab a temperature reading, and we will grab a mystery goo reading or observation. After we do that, we will rotate around and grab the seismic data, then the barometric pressure data. After we have collected all that in those parts, let's get our engineer EVA'd. And first things first, let's open up the inventory of the Kerbal and grab the Probodon experiment control module, and then the Communotron out here to the side. Disable the mouse and climb down. Once we get about here, we'll let go, activate our RCS and our SAS, and we'll hop over here, find a good spot to put these down somewhat close to the vessel so we don't have too far to go. Let's put the control station here, and I'm not sure why we don't have the Communotron. Let's RCS and hop on over here and grab that. Let's activate our lights, show off our yellow lights for our engineers. Let's grab a hold of this and get that Communotron. Place it in our inventory. Grab the other Communotron. And let's head on out. Let's let go, activate the RCS, hop on over here. We'll put these on both sides of this. We'll start with this one, place it here, get our inventory back open, placing this Communotron in our inventory so we can place it on the opposite side. Let's go ahead and hop our way on over here. And then we'll place it. Now we just need some power modules. Let's activate our RCS and hop on back over to our vessel. Grab onto the ladder, open this one, and let's grab the nuke, and then we will grab the photovoltaic panel, climb on down, go ahead and let go and activate the RCS. Now the nuke will just tuck right in about here. And we'll get this photovoltaic panel in our inventory and use the RCS to hop directly over to, and then we'll place that photovoltaic panel right there. And we just need to go back for the remaining two power parts that we need. Let's hop on up here and grab those now, starting with the last remaining part in this cargo unit, the photovoltaic panel. We'll place that in our Kerbal's inventory. There we go. And then let's get rid of that, and this one, rotate around and open the final cargo storage container, and grab that other photovoltaic panel, disable the mouse, climb on down. Let's go place those now. Let go, RCS, thrust on over. We'll go to the right side this time. And we'll place this first one about here. Let's put that there. And then place the part, open our inventory, place that in the inventory, and let's hop on over and place this one right here. That'll wrap things up for our engineer once we get that placed. Let's move our engineer to a safe spot. Good view, all that. And then it's time to swap back to our vessel while watching out for a bug that is very prevalent anymore. When you're swapping between all these, the vessel may or may not disappear on you. So I'm keeping an eye on that vessel as I switch between each and every one of these until it makes it to the vessel. Alright, so now that we have that, we will update the quick save. And then it's time for a scientist to do her job. Step right up, Hellwig, you are up. Let's EVA Hellwig. Start grabbing all this science. Let's grab the temperature data. Grab the seismic data. Grab the mystery goo data. And since I'm a stickler for these kinds of things, I'm going to go ahead and restore that, even though I'm not going to use it again now. And then grab the barometric pressure data and wrap it up by grabbing the gravity data, which apparently still needs logged. So let's grab that and then take it. And then we will grab an EVA report as well as a surface sample. There's the EVA report, 64 science, not bad. Now how about that surface sample? There we go, 240, we'll take it. Let's grab all that data so we can get that crew report out of there and free up some space, and then we will store all of that back in there immediately. And now it's time to place these last two breaking ground modules, the science modules. We'll start with the goo ebb monitor, place that in the inventory, then grab the ionographer and head on down. And we'll let go at that point, activate our RCS and boost on over to our breaking ground module area or site. We'll place this first one here. We'll back up a little bit and then place it. That's where our goo ebb monitor will go. Now let's place the ionographer in our inventory and hop on over to about here. Let's face this direction. There we go. We can just place it there. That should be fine. Looking good. Now, as soon as that's fully deployed, we'll check all the information out and see what we have going on. That should be fully deployed right about now. Okay. So it's working. 2.5 science an hour. Tons of power available. This one is also 2.25. Very good. So all that's done. Our scientist's job is done. I'm going to park her right over here next to our engineer. Good spot there. Now let's swap back to our vessel. There we go. And then we will update the quick save again. Now that we have all that done, the only thing left to do is to get our pilot out there to plant the flag, grab a surface sample, and then we will head on home. So let's get our pilot out here and locate a surface sample. After we plant this flag, of course. Let's turn the lights on, show off that nice red for all my pilots that I use. Okay. Kind of losing control there. Let's land you. Alright, Azalea. Try to remain professional here. That's not going so well, is it? Let's turn the SAS off, turn it back on. Get you to stand back up, turn the RCS off, turn it back on. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to plant this flag right over here in front of our good chaps over here. But before I do, I need to check and see how many have already been... Okay, so this is number 13. 2 to go. of 15 have now been planted. Now let's find a surface sample to grab. There should be one fairly close. Trying not to look at that Easter egg to keep this episode clear of Easter eggs, because that was covered in the last episode. I know there was a surface sample very close, not too far away. Not that one, because that requires a rover. Not seeing it though. Where's my tiny little rock? Still not spotting it. I think it might be that one right over there though. Hard to say. You're gonna have to go hopping around perhaps. But we will find out. We'll start by going over to that one. Alright, so let's activate the RCS. You can let go of the flag now. There you go. Alright, let's get a good hop. And we need to keep an eye on our fuel. So let's open that up. Let's find out where that rock is. Guess we can try going over here. Just keeping an eye out for a tiny little rock. Hopefully one of these ahead of us will be what we need. If not, then I'm not even sure if there is a rock that we can take home with us here on Dres's surface. But we'll find out. That's looking like a surface feature that requires a rover. But I think I see something ahead of us to the left that we can check out. Try to get some altitude going there. Very certain that that requires a rover. So we're going to go over to this one. Let's correct that prograde mark. A little more to the right, like right there. We'll just float on over to this one. Try to take a chunk of it home with us. Alright, let's try to kill some of that velocity now and make our approach down to it. This looks like something we should be able to take a chunk out of, but let's find out. Let's land directly on it, open our menu, and fool around a little bit, see if it tells us we can take a chunk out of it. It's not looking like it though. Just surface sample, and that's not quite what we're after. It's a different kind of option. We've used half of our propellant, just about. Pretty much the point of no return. Need to be careful. Guess we could try that one, but I seriously doubt it. I seriously think that both of those are for rovers only, so I'm just gonna take what I have and roll with it. I'm gonna go back to the ship. I'm gonna build up the speed to about 25 meters per second or so, and let it go from there. And just keeping an eye on that prograde mark to make sure it stays in the blue, keeping our altitude. Boost up to 10, then let it go. Each time it falls down to about right about there, keep boosting it up to 10, letting it go. Now, just in case, I am going to go ahead and go over here, spare the fuel to do it. Should have done it on the way anyways. I'm going to check it out just in case. I'm going to start killing that velocity and raising the altitude back again. Slam them brakes. And then hop on down here. See if it'll let us, but I seriously doubt it will. Not seeing any option to take a chunk out of it. I'm gonna hop inside, using as little propellant as possible. Still nothing. Let's face this way. Get close to the wall. Nope, nothing. Okay, so let's get out of here. Could have swore I saw a tiny rock that we could grab, but it may have looked tiny from the altitude that we were at. So might have just gotten a little confused with the size of it, but oh well. It's time for us to head home. Escape velocity is only, what was it, like 500-600 meters per second. So it won't take a whole lot of Delta V. It'll be interesting to see if this lander can make it back to Kerbin with just what's available on it without having to fool with the station. That would be nice. So we'll give that a shot, and we'll see if that goes the way we want it to go. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to use the station. If we have to do that, honestly, I'm going to put that station into polar orbit before undocking and then returning home, because either way, I want this relay, because that's pretty much what it's going to be at this point. It's just going to be a relay once we leave it, even though it is technically a station, but I want it to be in polar orbit for relay ability, for it to have more connectivity, more time available in its orbit where it's still remaining connected to the KSC and all the other relays. So there's our decoupler, if I'm not mistaken. Or is that a surface feature? Looks like our decoupler. Got some trash left here on the surface that we're gonna have to get rid of. Leave no trace. Alright, we're getting awfully close. Let's start to slow down to about 10 meters per second. Raise our altitude just a hair. Slow that down to about 5 now. Raise it up again, and let's get ourselves back in our ship. Now that we have our pilot back and boarded, there we go. Let's get our other Kerbals in here. Activate the RCS and get our scientist Helwig in here. And let's swap to our engineer. RCS our way on over to it and get our engineer inside of our vessel and prepare to go home, which we will begin by putting the vessel back in orbit and then setting up our transfer window, which honestly should be pretty close to where it needs to be already. But before we do anything else, I'm going to update the quick save and then take a look at the position of Kerbin relative to Dres, also to correct the Kerbal portraits going on by going to map view. But let's find out where Kerbin is. Hopefully it's this one right over here. Oh, it's not. It is way over there. So we are going to have to set up the transfer window first. Let's update the quick save just in case again. And as we're doing this, we should start seeing the breaking ground signs start to rack up. Let's get rid of this first though. We have walked on the surface and planted a flag. That knocks that out. So let's go ahead and begin our time warp until we'll put our focus on Kerbin as well to make this a little easier. 18, 19, 20, anymore? 21, hey, 22, 23, 4, wow, anymore? Is that it? 24, going once, going twice, sold to the highest bidder. Okay, 24 is the max that we are going to get from that. So that takes care of all the breaking ground science. Very groovy. Now we're just waiting for this transfer window to get where it needs to be. Wish we could warp a little faster. Probably would get dangerous, not sure. But this is okay. Should be arriving here in just a few seconds. And 3, 2, 1, 0. Very nice. Alright, let's put our focus back on our vessel and prepare to leave. Let's find out where we are. So we need to go to the opposite side. Let's go ahead and no, we're not going to time warp. We're going to launch first. It's a little dark. That's okay. Just going to begin to thrust up. Get rid of the landing gear. Or retract it. And then once we hit about 30 meters per second or so, we'll go full sideways towards the 90-degree mark. And we'll lock on. Go full throttle. Should be okay. Should not be slamming into the surface. And actually, a nighttime launch stops anybody from seeing the Easter egg that was covered in the last episode. So, hey, that works. Alright, so now let's keep an eye on that apoapsis as it wraps around. We'll get that close to where it needs to be for our transfer to Kerbin. Say about 50,000 will be okay. By the time it reaches 50,000, it'll be near where we need to be for that transfer. We just need to get above 10,000 meters first. Let's turn the brakes off, start cleaning some of this stuff up. What do we have? 43, 87, 81, 80. So one appears to be 80 consistently, the other one not so consistent in its science gains, but regardless, all those are done. So let's get rid of all those. And we have just received experimental data from the surface of Dres. That knocks out that contract. Now we just need to get home with all this science. That'll knock out everything that you can do around Dres. Alright, so now we are still on our way up to 10,000 meters so that we can time warp over to the apoapsis and try to boogie on home with the delta V that we have. We have 4,128. Let's say that should cover it, granted that we are doing this correctly. But we need to make sure that Kerbin is our target. Looks like it is, but I want to be sure. zoom on out. It is not set as our target. Let's go ahead and do that. Kerbin is now the target. We need to get home. And we have our window prepared. We are now at 8,500 meters, just 1,500 to go. I'm gonna go ahead and update the quick save. I think it's a good time to. Lock on to the prograde mark. Let's open up our resource menu. And just 1,000 more meters to go. A little coffee break. I'll take it. Now, 600, 500. That was interesting. Looks like I'm still broadcasting though, so I'm not going to concern myself with that. Just going to keep going. I think the power just had a bit of a flicker. Alright, 150, 100, and let's time warp. Let's get our butts out there to that apoapsis. But we may need to stop the time warp a little sooner, so we're going to warp to about here. It's going to take it a minute. Once it hits 30,000 meters, it should warp on over a little faster. And 4, 3, 2, 1. And quicker. And now the reason why I didn't warp all the way over to the apoapsis, I'm looking for that prograde and target mark alignment, seeing how close they are together. If we reach a point where the prograde and the target marks are close enough before reaching the apoapsis, then we are going to burn early. But it looks like it's not going to happen, so let's circularize real fast. Bring that periapsis out to 50,000. With minimal delta V usage. Still tons left on those swivel stages, that's good. Now let's time warp ahead. Actually, before we do that, let's update the quick save. And then we'll time warp ahead to the target mark and see if we can't make it home with just the lander, leaving the station out in all its glory. We'll stop it about there and go ahead and punch it. Watching that G-force meter as we zoom out so we can get a good view of our approach to Kerbin. Let's cut there. Finish zooming out. Alright, now we have 271 delta V. Let's go ahead and continue our prograde burn while keeping an eye on that G-force meter on the nav ball. The sending node is off quite a bit, but that's okay. Alright, it's time to stage. Let's go ahead and get rid of those swivels. Come on. There we go. Alright, let's continue. Now we have bringing it in as much as we want, where there's not as much gravitational influence here, but we'll see where this goes. Try to point the just keep it where it is for now. It's looking rough though. It's like this lander is not really optimized for returning at all. Even from Dres, trying to make it back to Kerbin. Which is a bit surprising, to be honest. We'll just keep burning until these are out of fuel. And we'll take a look at where we are from there as we continue to make our way back with the Poodle from there. About 15 seconds to 20 seconds to go. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and open up that Delta V menu and expand it. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And stage. Say goodbye to the Poodle tanks. 160 seconds of burn time remaining. 2500 Delta V. And it's really not moving much at all there. We may end up having to use the station again. It's really looking that way. So I'm going to cut my losses immediately instead of fooling around, because I've already learned this lesson. Let's load that quick save and rendezvous up with that station then. And this is where things are going to get interesting. As soon as this loads up, we'll make the rendezvous, dock up, transfer the tanks, or the tank off of the, the tanks off of the station and onto the lander / return vessel, and then we'll make it home. Because I can guarantee it'll be able to make it home from Dres if it can make it home from all of the other locations that we have been to recently, dealing with this lander and its issues and inabilities in making it home on its own. Alright, so let's get that station set as our target. Now we need to correct that ascending node, so let's point ourselves to anti-normal. And we'll warp on over to that. Cancel. Zoom in. Again to correct it. Once it's close enough, we will cut that. And then time warp a little closer to it again. Try to get right on top of it. There we go. Okay, now let's get this rendezvous. Let's go ahead and warp out to the periapsis here. Be prepared to reorient to the prograde mark at that point. Then let's make sure that we have the intersect nodes, the proper ones, highlighted, like so. Let's start prograde burning. See if we can't wrap that around. There we go. We need to... Oh, this is going to be a little difficult with so many engines. Okay. Let's do it in small bursts. Try to get as close as possible. There we go. That's pretty close. Let's take it. Let's warp on over to that side of the intersect. Make sure that we are prepared to point retrograde relative to the target and target mode upon arrival. Not too much delta V to have to burn off, 33.5 meters. Let's actually point ourselves back to prograde, go back to this view, put ourselves in docking mode, exit warp mode. As soon as that's locked onto the prograde mark, No, we need to lock it onto the target mark. There we go. Once it's locked onto the target mark, we'll activate RCS and try to force the prograde a little closer. It's not really going to happen too much, is it? Okay, yeah. Forget that idea. Let's point ourselves back to retrograde, make sure that we are back in staging mode. And let's just go ahead and warp a little closer. 19, 18 seconds, okay. So we can warp ahead just a wee bit more. Pretty much right on target. Okay, let's cancel that. And let's get rid of that velocity. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's do the rest with the RCS. That should be okay. Let's point towards the target now. We'll increase our speed just a little bit, real quick. And then turn the RCS back on and correct that prograde until it's right over top of the target mark, and then deactivate the RCS and time warp on over. I think we have a bug going. Let's update the quick save and then reload it, and we'll give that another shot. Let's reload that quick save. We need to cancel that velocity again, point back at the target, and try all that one more time as soon as this loads. Okay, you can go ahead and load now. Come on. I think we're about to get it. Hopefully. There we go. Alright, let's try to find out where the retrograde mark is manually on the other side. Okay. And once we get that, let's lock it. Go to docking mode, activate the RCS, cancel that speed. Do the rest with the RCS now. There we go. Let's get rid of the RCS, lock on the target. As soon as we are locked onto the target node, let's throttle up to about 1 meter per second. Get that RCS going. Get that prograde lined up with that target mark. Turn off the RCS. Let's warp on over. Cancel about there. Correct the prograde mark relative to the target mark again. It's going to take a little bit more RCS now because we let it get so far away, but that's okay. In fact, I'm going to push it over to the other side of the target mark, right about there, and then continue time warping over. I'm going to cancel it once it reaches the edge, right about there. Correct it again. close to the other side of the target mark again. Hopefully we still have a decent amount of RCS. I haven't been keeping an eye on that. Once it's about there, I'm going to cut that off and check that. Okay, 27.74 units of RCS monopropellant fuel remaining. Not bad. Getting awfully close. I don't think it's going to really change a whole lot more. Once we're within 100 meters or so, I'm going to back off. Yeah, it's going too far that way now. Go ahead and back off now. Get that RCS on. Get that prograde mark down to the retrograde mark. And we're going to get it right on top of it this time. We're going to slow down a wee bit as we are doing that. Get it down to about 1 meter per second. While keeping that right on top of that mark. As soon as it hits 1 meter per second, we'll warp on over the rest of the way, correcting that prograde mark as needed along the way. Let's go ahead and do that now. And cancel. Let's go ahead and get that corrected. That's fairly close. Let's cut it there. Let's bring down our speed to about 0.5 meters per second. Hopefully there's enough monopropellant to do what we're trying to do here. Let's cut that off. Swap to the other vessel. Control from its docking port. And set its target to the docking port on the other vessel, the lander, and we will put it in target mode. Let those two stabilize. Once they are both locked on to each other, we'll swap back over to the lander. Before I do that though, I'm going to use the loads of monopropellant that are available on the station to correct the prograde mark, so we don't have to use that to do that on the lander. Say, as soon as it gives me control back, come on, there we go, okay, that's looking good. Let's deactivate the RCS and swap to the lander, and let's finish this job. Let's get these two docked up. Right about there's close enough. Going to start slowing down very quickly while correcting that prograde mark relative to the target mark. Once it reaches about 0.1 meters per second, that's where we want to be. Let's deactivate the RCS, rotate so the panels are where they need to be. Up there, should be good. Everything should be hunky-dory. Now, before we get any closer, I'm going to cancel that velocity entirely. Real quick before they dock. Pull it away, pull it away. I want to park it nice and close, but not too close. Now let's cancel that speed. Come on, there we go. Alright, now let's swap back to this, and we are going to undock that station, or the tank and the engine. Then we are going to activate the RCS and get out of the way. Pull forward a little bit too. Cancel that velocity now. Let's get on up out of the way. Once we are out of the way, let's cancel the velocity that we just added to it. Like so. Deactivate the RCS, swap back to the lander, target the tank's docking port, and I really hope there's enough monopropellant left to do this. Let's find out. Let's thrust forward to 0.1 meter per second. Try to get that prograde mark. There we go. Let's correct it. And let's correct our orientation to the target mark as well. Lock. And time warp. Once we are right on top of it, we will very quickly have to adjust that prograde mark. Let's go ahead and do that now. Oh, it's still in rotation mode. Okay, well, kind of worked out in our favor because it put it right on to the target mark. Okay, now let's deactivate the SCS and the RCS and let it take over. Now for the fun part. We need to control from the command module and then after we set that as our control point, let's deactivate the main sail over here. We'll shut it down. Point ourselves prograde. And then we need to make sure that Kerbin is set as our target. It should already be where it needs to be for the transfer window. We just need to orbit around until we are lined up as well. Once we set Kerbin as our target. Let's zoom out a little bit more. There we go. Okay, so now we just need to wrap ourselves around Dres until we are right where we need to be. Which looks like it's going to be on the other side of Dres. Let's go ahead and do that now. And once the anti-target pink mark on the nav ball is right on top of the retrograde mark, that means the target mark will be right on top of the prograde mark. So we'll just keep an eye on that and gauge it off of that information. As soon as that anti-target mark starts to touch the prograde, we know we're going to have to stop it there. So right about there is where we want that. So now we'll let this reorient to prograde. And once it's there, we will use the stages that are on the lander first, leaving the mainsail stage and the two Terriers with the Wolfhound in that stage to carry the command pod itself back the rest of the way after we use up the 4 outer swivels on the lander, followed by the 6 darts and the singular central poodle stage to begin the transfer back home. Now once we are locked onto the prograde mark, I'm going to update the quick save and then we're going to burn through all those stages and make it home. Just waiting a few more seconds now. And we need to make sure that station's not going to be right in front of us too. We're going to be clear of the station. Fantastic. Let's update the quick save and get these Kerbals home. Let's go to staging mode immediately. Roll up. And let's get out of here. Station. I think we're okay at full throttle. I'll make sure that these are empty. Okay, so the staging should be fine. Let's go ahead and stage. Get rid of those swivel tanks. Continue along the way. It's very slowly pushing us now. But the thrust of weight is terrible, but that's not the focus. After we get rid of all the stages on the lander itself, these will be more than enough to get us on. Currently, the thrust of weight really isn't that bad. Guarantee that we're going to need to burn through everything that we have on that lander before even checking where we are on the map, to be honest. I'm going to hide all that, get a better view of the readout on that gauge for the liquid fuel on those darts. But curiosity killed the cat, as they say. Get rid of that, open the menu. progress we actually are making. I'm not expecting it to be too far in. But it is working its way in. It's gonna get rough though. Hopefully we're not going to have to end up finagling this, but I guess we'll find out. Let's keep an eye on that ferry axis too while we're at it. I'm honestly kind of surprised about this. Everything is lined up the way it should be. Time to stage though. Let's get rid of this. That could be good or it could be bad. Oh! Okay, it's a good thing we have nukes. Because we just lost our solar panels. Oh, had to happen at some point. Did that just a hair too early. Ouch. We're okay. That's why we have RTGs in there. Absolutely certain we do. Where are those things? There is one. Yep, there it is. Okay, good. That's a relief. Now the periapsis is starting to come down. That's what we were wanting. This last stage, this poodle. How much time do we have? Burning it. No way that's still that much time. I guess it might be. As soon as that's done though, need to make sure it's this decoupler by itself. Once we decouple that, we need to control from the docking port on the tank. And we'll then activate that engine, which we might have to do manually. Let's try to push this out here just a wee bit more too, to keep the prograde mark more in line with that target mark. I'm going to put it about here. That should be fine. That should actually start to bring the descending and ascending nodes back to proper placement. Guess we'll find out then. How's that periapsis coming along? It's coming down. Good. Is that apoapsis starting to go up? Good. That's what we want. Really cannot wait to be done with this poodle stage though, because it is so slow and very precarious. I'm going to point this way just a wee bit. There we go. How much time do we have left? About 45, 50 seconds, give or take. Oh wow, 17, 16, 15, okay. We'll roll with that. Let's get rid of that. And let's get rid of this. And make absolutely certain the staging is good. Hope it doesn't fool around on us. As soon as that engine cuts off, let's cut the throttle, control from here, go ahead and stage. Lock back on to prograde. We will activate this engine, close those. As soon as we are locked back onto the prograde mark, we're going to go full throttle. Now we also need to correct the staging here. Let's put this here with these engines. Cooperate, there we go. And then we need to put, alright, let's go full throttle. We need to put these down here. Now we're talking. Okay. See what we're looking at as far as that goes. It's moving down a lot quicker now. That's what I wanted to see. So we need to bring it down to about 13.5 billion. And then we'll need to correct the descending node still. But we should have all the delta V in the world to do this. Question is, how long is it going to take? And thankfully, we now have fuel lines on both of these outer tanks for the Terra, so we won't have to worry about that nonsense again. Keep seeing some strange things going on with the Delta V readouts. Not sure what's going on, so I'm going to keep an eye on those tanks myself as we continue to bring the periapsis down to where it's in line orbital line. We're going to get some pretty awesome speed out of this by the time we're done. Hopefully it works out to our favor. Let's see, that's almost out now. Let's be prepared to stage, checking over all of that again. I want that wolfhound to go off before those terriers. Alright, let's do it. Now the real fun. Hopefully this will do the trick. Let's check the burn time readouts now. 259 seconds on the wolfhound. 40 seconds still remaining on this stage. And it is bringing that periapsis in pretty well still. We are going to have to stage before it reaches that point, I would say. Let's put the focus on curbing. Get a good view of everything here. How much delta V do we have? 230, 220, 21, 20, 19. It's coming on down though. Grab a little bit of coffee real quick. Prepare to stage. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Stage. Now for the moneymaker. The wolfhound. Still seeing Dres there behind us. We're not out of the Dres system at all. We're still making our way out, getting ourselves home. Let's try to push this in just a wee bit further. It's about at 13.5 million or billion meters. We'll cut there and quick save, except this time quick save 2, just in case we have to reload the original, which I doubt we'll have to, but either way it's going to make it or end up a rescue mission. But let's point anti-normal and advance. Once that's locked on to anti-normal, we will then time warp over to the descending node. Ah, okay, so it needs to be pointing normal. Derp. Okay, let's put that towards normal. We'll highlight that descending node, get that right over top of it. Once we have that, and that's locked on to normal, we'll manually time warp, and then auto time warp out to the descending node. Let's keep an eye on Kerbin as we make our way there. So what we are wanting to do, we're wanting to reach Kerbin right around here as we fall towards it. Let's check its velocity out. That's not Kerbin. Let's get rid of that. Put the focus on that node back on Kerbin. It is moving at 9,000 some meters per second. We are falling much slower than that, but we are picking up speed pretty quickly. Now that we have arrived at the descending node, let's go ahead and correct that. Let's keep an eye on our resources too. There we go. Exit time warp mode. 4 to go. Still plenty of Delta V. We are now in an episode extension. Seems to happen every episode. Can never be that easy, huh? Alright, so 1.5 to go. Try to get that descending node right down here. As close to there as possible, at least. Which is about where it should be when it's at perfect zero. Slowly wrap that around now. Until it's right about there. Now, we need to continue retrograde burning until we see an encounter. There's our nodes. Now we just need to bring them close together. There should be enough Delta V to pull this off. And Eve better not get in our way. Have a bad feeling about this. If that periapsis has to drop down towards Eve, it's going to be bad news bears. Because it's in a pretty interesting location right now. This looks like it's going to be pretty tight. But I think we'll be okay. Yeah, we should have enough Delta V to do this. It's going to be very close though. Might have just a couple hundred remaining by the time we wrap that around. Unless Eve has something it wants to say about it. But I guess we'll find out. Maybe even better to just burn radio in or out, but I'm just going to keep going with the flow. Because it's coming down pretty quick. Like 72, 71, 70, 69, 68. Still have over 800 units of fuel. I think we're going to be okay. It's coming in faster and faster too. So yeah, we're definitely going to have plenty of fuel left over. Thank God for Wolfhound engines. All three of those should be very close when everything converges. Be pretty cool. Pretty accurate. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, cut. And let's zoom in. Find out where we are, where we're coming in, all that good stuff. Let's bring that in closer. I want to drop it down to about 35,000 meters. Once it gets close enough, I need to cut the throttle, bring the thrust limiter down as close to zero as possible. 0.88, we'll take it. Alright, let's zoom in, highlight the periapsis, bring it on in. Once it's close enough, we'll cut and bring it on real slow. Just a couple small puffs, there we go. 36,000 meters. Not quite equatorial, not the way we want it. We can try to bring it down. We have the fuel. Let's point anti-normal and see if we can't bring it down. Okay, so we need to normalize the burn. So let's lock on to the normal mark on the nav ball. See if we can't bring it down. We have the station and orbit around Kerbin to gauge it off of. It's very interesting to see that move like that. Let's wrap that around like so, and we'll point back to prograde, I guess? Yeah, prograde. We'll do that, and then we will prograde burn just a hair to bring that back out, like so. Now let's check that periapsis out. 32,000, fantastic. Look at that line. Okay, let's update quick save 2, just in case. We're going to keep with the quick save 2 and make sure that we are coming in from the appropriate side, looking good. Let's time warp ahead once. Barely even affected the periapsis at all. Alright, so let's time warp out just a little before this station's line. That should put us just a wee bit out beyond 100,000 meters upon arrival. Be prepared to point retrograde and in surface mode. Kerbin should be on our, let's see, let's find out where is the hatch. Hatch is there, pointing down, which means Kerbin will be on this side of us, I suppose. Just need to keep an eye out for it. Look at that speed relative to the surface, that's pretty ridiculous. What about target and orbit speed? Wow. Upwards of 15,000. Okay, now we're starting to drop back down towards Kerbin. So it should actually be behind us over here somewhere. If that's the case. Geez, the speed. Well. There's the mun. Oh boy. Okay, let's go to surface mode and kick off any fuel that we have left. Making our way down. Coming in really hot. We need to be prepared to undock from this and reorient the other one. Let's go ahead and do that now. Oh boy. Oh, this is going to be ugly. Undock. Please don't die. Okay, there we go. Swap to that vessel. Make sure it's locked onto retro. Oh man, that was bad. For a moment there, one of the roughest ones we've had to deal with. Let's try to close those flaps on. Okay, that ain't happening. Oh yeah, it's not the one that is set to do that. Rest in peace, a blade of protection. Yikes. Look at the G-force starting to climb up. That was dangerous. Yeah, it was also kind of fun. Okay. We are almost at our lowest altitude. I'm not sure if it's going to slow it down enough. I know that we're definitely going to be in orbit there to starting to raise back up now. We are definitely in Kerbin orbit. Question is this first pass going to be enough to get us to land or not? Let's keep an eye on our vessel's altitude, our periapsis, and our apoapsis. It's definitely going to be enough to land on the first pass. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and time warp. Let's get this landing done. Keeping an eye on the altitude. Once it slows down, then we'll start dropping again. Over a third of the way through our ablative protection. It's going to slow down rapidly again, down to 1,000 meters per second, then we'll be through the upper atmosphere. There it goes, starting to fall. And we are out of the upper atmosphere. Sorry for the nighttime landing, it just got pretty wild there at the end. I'm going to continue time warping and just do the parachutes while time warping. That's our altitude 9, 8, 7, 6, and at 5 activated probes. Let those deploy. Once we're close enough to the surface, I'll deploy the main chutes, provided they are still intact. Looks like every one of those are still intact. Fantastic. Alright, now let's just land and finish this mission. Not sure what we lost whenever that happened, to be honest. I'm still seeing everything on the vessel, so I'm just grateful we didn't lose the heat shield. That would have been terrible. But we are awfully close to the surface. Let's go ahead and cut that time warp right about now. And we have landed. Forgot to close that shield on the docking port. Too many mistakes were made. Too many mistakes were made. Okay. Now. Yeah, every single part of this vessel is still intact. Not sure what happened up there. Alright, let's check our achievements, our accomplishments. We have returned home from the surface, flyby, and orbit. Completed the contract for 288,000. As soon as we recover it, it will finish the rest of that contract. We have conquered Dres. Now we just need to find out where we're off to next. We have done everything that we can possibly do in the space around and on the surface as far as these contracts and missions go. Of course, there's still loads of other things we can do, like sending rovers there to gain rover-based science and all kinds of other foolishness like flying through the canyon and so on, but it's another video for another day. Right now we are just knocking out contracts. So we recovered over 1,800 science from the science that we kept on the vessel alone. I think we gained somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,300 from the breaking ground science. I'm losing count at this point. We are not too far from the Kerbal Space Center. Right? Okay. Well, that's done. Let's check those. Those are the rest of the things for the contract. Scientific data from Dres, check. Contract done. Let's go ahead and update the quick save. Update the main save after that. 101. Now, let's find out what's going on next. Oh, it's making us dig for it. We're going to Moho. Flyby, gather scientific data, and return from a flyby of Moho. You know how that's gonna go. We're gonna put a station in orbit of Moho, and we're gonna land there after we rendezvous and dock up at that station. Now, anything else related to Moho besides this surface outpost that we are not gonna do? Not seeing anything just yet, so that's everything for this episode. Let's do some cleaning up and wrapping up. Alright, let's go to the tracking station. It's a shame we can't put that station in polar orbit. It took a great deal of the Delta V from all the tanks and stages that were attached to that station. So it's a good thing that we did what we did. Only downside is now that station is stuck in close 50,000 meter orbit around Dres instead of in a polar orbit at a higher orbit. It would have been much better for relay ability, but you know, and so it goes. Let's just select all of these so it's just the debris. And we can fly through all of that, terminating them one by one. About 16 of them to go through. Let's get rid of this one, this one, this one. Oh no. Accidentally chose to fly it. Gonna have to wait for that to load and then go back to the tracking station. Then we'll check out Moho and wrap things up. There's somewhat of an Easter egg at Moho to check out that we'll be landing on, that a lot of people are already pretty aware of. In fact, it's kinda why they named the planet Moho, because of the type of feature at its northern and southern poles. It's not really gonna ruin anything, so I'm gonna go ahead and say its name. We're gonna land on the surface right by the Mohole. Alright, now let's go back to the tracking station and get rid of the rest of this debris so we can take a quick look at Moho and try to get a bird's eye view of the Mohole that we'll be landing at. Check out its parameters, its information, all the characteristics and all that good stuff.